Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 13, Episode 105. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us here this Friday, Steelers Nation. Dave, how you doing?
Happy Friday, Alex. Did you slept fast after watching the last 6 minutes of that Gonzaga UCLA game? There were a couple, and once again, I don't watch a lot of basketball throughout the year. I'll watch during tournament time. There have been a couple of fantastic games yesterday there. And I watched the last, 6 minutes or so of that UCLA Gonzaga game. And boy, what a turn of events that was there. But here we are, let's see, second week of March Madness and first full week of free agency in the books, and things starting to, pro days starting to wind down here. So, but we still managed to have quite a bit to talk about today. And we're going to play a couple of games today, couple of games related to Uncle Dave.
All right. You're our favorite here. Yeah. UCLA saying goodbye to the March Madness tournament, and Terrell Edmunds saying goodbye to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so that's the big news of the day yesterday. Edmunds tweeting out on Thursday morning saying, quote, "Thank you, Pittsburgh, for making my dreams come to reality. You will forever be a part of me and my journey. I'm thankful for all my coaches, teammates, and every fan supporting. To my brothers, y'all know how we're rocking. It's going to be love until the wheels fall off." And so that seems to be Edmunds' goodbye. No official word on what team he's signing with, or if this is not, or I guess in theory he may not have signed with the team yet, but just decided I don't want to come back to Pittsburgh for whatever reason. So regardless of all those details, it seems like Edmunds is not going to be a Steeler in 2023.
Yep, that's the way it's looking. And you sit on Twitter the rest of the day waiting for to find out where he's going. and the shoe never fell yesterday there. So maybe maybe it was pending a physical or so, I don't know, something like that. Maybe we'll find out today. But based most definitely on how he worded that, it doesn't seem like he's going to be back now at this point. So we'll sit and wait find out where he does wind up. And I know it's trendy to kind of kick player, slam the door on them as they go out there and kick them a couple of times as some of these guys walk out the door there. And I think we've been pretty open about our thoughts about Terrell Edmunds since day one. He is a guy that obviously nobody's going to regard as top 10, 12, 15 strong safety in the league. But he made improvements, I think, every season that he played. And quite honestly, I think last year was probably his best, season. Now, where is the splash at? That's going to be the biggest knock on him. But for what the Steelers asked him and wanted him to do, I thought he did it well, outside of, once again, creating turnovers. Now he got where he was making a key play, I don't know, once every other game or two games, as far as maybe a tackle for a loss or a big hit, third down or something like that. But the biggest knock on him, I think, as he presumably leaves Pittsburgh, is the fact that he just isn't a playmaker, big time, producer in the stat category.
Sure, that's certainly one thing that I think has depressed his market over the past two off seasons. But as you kind of alluded to, he had a very specific role in this defense as that classic box strong safety, and he did that role well. And I thought 2022 was his best year, maybe not as statistically gaudy as some past years, because he had a couple of picks in 21, didn't in 22, but I thought the actual tape was better. The tackling was a lot better. And I think he did make a couple plays in coverage. He was never somebody that was really instinctual, but just based on, with reps and experience and time, you kind of learn a thing or two and you play a bit faster, play to that time speed that he had. So, not the end of the world, not irreplaceable, but somebody that still has to be replaced. And I just think, I mentioned this before with Edmunds, from an availability standpoint, a durability standpoint, this guy was available. Very few players have played the number of snaps that Edmunds has over the past 5 seasons. So you're trying to replace a consistently 1,000 snap a year kind of dude, and that's not easy to do. There was a comfort in knowing that, okay, Edmunds is going to be there. He's going to do his job. We don't have a whole lot to worry about there. So that's the thing to replace there, is just that guy that was a pretty constant, steady presence, although he was never a great player. He certainly had improved. Yeah,
look, and you got the continuity factor between him and Minka, right? The right hand knowing what the left hand doing, those kind of things there. So now you're going to have to move past that. Look, it's not the end of the world. Oh no, there goes the Steelers' chances of winning. It's not that kind of move, and it never has been that with him. But once again, like you said, he deep. Right? You want to talk about a guy that stayed available to the team. It wasn't up until, the season before last that he missed his first game, right? And wasn't that because of COVID or something like that? And then, he hasn't missed many. He went his first, 3.5 seasons or something like that without even missing a game.
Yeah, he missed, I think, 1 or 2 in 2022. So, that the kind of Iron Man streak was ending, but still overall remarkably durable and available and somebody that you could count on. And yeah, you lose Cam Sutton, you lose Terrell Edmunds, you're losing 2 starters in that secondary, even at the linebacker room, a trusted guy in Robert Spillane. It's a whole new linebacker room. So from that continuity standpoint, from the trust standpoint, from the, we got guys who know the system. There's going to be a challenge here. There's going to be some growing pains there. And again, those are things that can and will be overcome, but it's not going to be instant. And so I think it's not just losing Edmunds in a vacuum, but losing him and losing Sutton, all these guys that have that experience and time, and really just everybody knows what's going on. As you said, right hand knows what the left hand is doing. I think that stacks up, and that's going to be an underrated issue and unintended consequence of losing some of these guys.
And look, I think I'm glad they re-signed Casey. Obviously, it just, to me, it would have been kind of the icing on the cake, and probably maybe still not prevented him from drafting a safety, even had they re-signed Edmunds. But to me, my hope going into this offseason was to see at least one more season with Casey and Edmunds as being, kind of specific package players in that defense.
Yeah, that would have been ideal, I think, to bring Edmunds back and have him continue that role as that starting strong safety, live in the box. Again, 35% of his snaps were in the box last year, really kind of became a dime linebacker when Casey returned after the bye. But now the question is, where does this team go from here? Because the options to replace Edmunds, again, understanding that he's not irreplaceable, even close to that. I think that role that he occupies is pretty easy to find. It's not particularly unique, but how do you replace it? Because the free agency pool doesn't look great. The draft class does not look great. How do you think Pittsburgh approaches things?
Well, I think you wrote about one this morning, didn't you?
I did, with Taylor Rapp, who I think makes the most amount of sense. Not that he's the literal only name, but I think from the veteran pool, Rapp is 25, still has youth and experience similar to Edmunds. He's a hitter. He can play strong safety. Not the overall athlete that Edmunds is in terms of their testing, although Edmunds always played a bit slower on tape. But I think Rapp's a guy that would fit well. The only question is, does he maybe want too much? Because he's already visited a couple teams. He had a visit with Cincinnati. He went to New England. No deals there. Is he asking for too much money just based on a safety market that's typically, underwhelming when it comes to contracts?
Do you remember what kind of interest, if any, they had in him in the pre-draft process? Did you look that up?
I don't know if I did or not. I'm trying to think what year he was coming out. Is he 2019 class? I just forget. Yeah, it was 2019. Let me see if I can find that. But he just has that, box safety, really physical guy. I remember him out of Washington. Right. He was a hitter, big time for sure. So I see a pre-draft visit here. I'm not seeing one. I'd have to go back and maybe take some more time to see at pro days, but nothing, no obvious ties there.
Okay. All right.
And him aside, what else is there? For agency, there's a couple other options. Ronnie Harrison, a low-level guy, but the draft is, Brian Branch is going to be the big name talked about for 17. Does Edmunds leaving increase those odds of Branch being the guy at 17?
I don't think you can discount it, especially we'll be getting into this in this show talking about the pro day talk and who was spotted where, and the Steelers expectedly sent a large group of people to Alabama to that pro day, and one of those people was Grady Brown, and helped run the defensive backs through their pro day drills and all like that. So you start connecting the dots, and obviously a big powerhouse school like that, and you send in a lot of people there, and you have the position coach there, and not only the position coach there, but helping run it through the drills. So I don't think you can totally discount. There's several guys in this class that I think the Steelers will have interest in, that because we're the Steelers pick 17 and 32. You kind of wonder, is 17 too high, or is 32 too late, or are they perfect? Mm-hmm. Where do some of these guys belong? And that's where I've got a nice kind of list, I think, built of guys that I think could fit in either one of those spots, 17 or 32. But I'm struggling with the fact is can this indeed be a 17 guy, a justified 17 guy,
Yeah, it's a fair point. But sometimes I wonder, it's not that big of a difference. If we were talking 50 versus 67, you kind of be like, he can go to 50, he can go to 67. So if a guy can go at 32, why can't he go at 17? I know there's probably a slight difference there because it's the first round, it's the face of your class, but I don't know. It's not that big of a gap. With Branch, the question I've had with him is just where exactly does he fit? He still seems a bit light, $190 to be that strong safety type. But I know that Bama had him close to the line of scrimmage quite a bit, and he's physical, and I think just plays bigger than his size overall, and can play slot corner and fill some of those needs. So I think certainly he'll be in consideration. There's also the other safety there, Jordan Battle. That's kind of more of that classic safety, body type, whose tape I thought was kind of frustrating, but a guy that has some potential.
Yeah, and the thing about Branch is I think he gives you more he definitely gives you more in coverage, but do you sacrifice the box, the against the run play?
Yeah, and I'll have to dive into that some more. And I know that people are asking, why can't Damontae Kazee just be the strong safety? Of course, re-signed to that 2-year deal, and he's physical, and he's, again, kind of that Mike Hilton mold of, aggressive and plays bigger than his frame. I just can't see Kazee as the every down 1,000 snap starting strong safety. He's going to live in the box. And again, I know he's a pretty physical kind of alpha dude, but I just don't think the body type at his frame plays well to be in that strong safety role full time.
Okay. Are they going to draft a safety, Alex?
Oh yeah, they're going. I think they have to at this point, even if they go sign a Taylor Rapp or Ronnie Harrison or whoever. I just don't think
even if they had re-signed Edmunds, right? Unless it was like a 3-year whatever,
Well, I think maybe you could have gotten away with it if it's a 2-year deal. Casey's on a 2-year deal. I think you could probably work around that enough. If you do want to mention in terms of internal options, one name to consider, and he's not going to start, obviously, but Elijah Riley's always kind of intrigued me for some versatility. There's some Andy Weidel connections there. He played a little bit last year, so should note at least in terms of internal guys. I think Elijah Riley's a guy that's going to try to compete for a spot in the summer.
Yeah, and he's also a converted one-time cornerback too, right?
Right, yeah. So just something to think about. Obviously, there's Trey Norwood. He's not a strong safety. Miles Killeber's a special teamer, so there isn't a whole lot of other options. Kazee ideally is that 6th defensive back, that dime back who's going to replace the versatility that Cam Sutton brought. That's the role I want Kazee to be in, somebody that can play the post and rotate with Minka, kind of work all over. That's where I think he should be ideally on third down, obvious pass situations, not as this team's starting strong safety as a 185-pound, 30-year-old strong safety. Just not going to be the best role for him.
And look, there's even though this class doesn't seem overly deep at, kind of that specific box type strong safety position. There are a couple of names in this draft, and one of these guys they might go see, or they're more than likely to go see today, right? And Jair Brown out of Penn State.
Yeah, he's a guy with colorful production. I think what's the stat on him? I think led all DBs in interceptions 2 years ago and led all DBs in sacks this past year with 4.5. Now the testing was really underwhelming, and so hopefully he can have a good workout. So yeah, I mean, there are names in this class. Antonio Johnson from Texas A&M is, a guy that was pretty versatile. I think he's best as a strong safety type. Sidney Brown lacks that size, but has the feistiness and aggressiveness and versatility to play some slot corner, play safety. J.L. Skinner is kind of that lanky, again, I think hitter box type from Boise State. So there are some names.
And don't sleep on Anthony Johnson Jr. out of Iowa State either.
No, as you talked about for sure. I still don't know where to draft that guy though. I still don't know. Is it fourth round is kind of what's in my head right now.
Anywhere from 4th to 6th.
Well, they don't have the 5th or the 6th, so you got to say 4th.
Yeah, and look, I mean, they might like him that much,
Yeah, all it takes is, who cares what the overall, mock draft say or the overall grade says. If you like the guy, then you like the guy and you take him. So, of course, do you have a 4th round pick that you just slot in there as your starting strong safety? That's asking, potentially a lot.
Yeah, true.
So, and Edmunds himself is somebody that can be replaced, but the question of who and how do you replace him, I think when you put that in actual, brass tacks becomes a little difficult.
All right. So moving past the Edmunds news.
Yeah, one other minor piece of Steelers free agency news: Trent Scott will not be returning to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, damn it!
We're all sad about that. A moment of silence here for Trent Scott going to the Washington Commanders on I assume 1-year deal. I just am kind of assuming that's what the contract will be, but I guess I don't know that for sure. So Trent Scott, who barely played last year, some tackle eligible work, 1 snap at right tackle, replacing Chukwuma Okorafor, has that Pat Meyer connection. He is officially gone, which really leaves Pittsburgh with just their 2 offensive tackles right now.
Yeah, it's been the elephant in the room, or the elephant not in the room.
Yeah, right.
for all off season here, and now I mean you're getting the Trent Scotts of the world getting signed less than 2 weeks before free agent. I mean that's where this. I went through the entire list. I pulled it off of the NFL communications site just to make sure that I was looking at all the available tackles and did the Google search of who's already signed and all. I mean, you're down at the bottom of the barrel. I mean, you really are at the bottom of the barrel now. The Cam Irving. And Cam Irving looks good now. As a possibility, and you've obviously mentioned the link back to Pat Meyer and all like that. So they've got to add a tackle before the draft, right? At least 1, if not 2. They got to get some bodies in that room.
A veteran with some versatility to me is a must, and who that guy will be, there's probably a lot of ways you could go. Matt Pryor from Indy has the size and versatility. I mentioned Irving, Chris Hubbard. You can throw out basically any of those names. They're sort of dime a dozen, but you got to add somebody. And then, of course, you're going to be looking pretty strongly at drafting somebody as well.
Right. If there was any question about this team potentially drafting a tackle in the first, really, I would say 2 picks, and maybe lengthen it to 3. But if there was any question heading into free agency about that, I think it's going to happen now.
All right, so let's talk tackles because the Steelers have been very busy this pro day week, and so has offensive line coach Pat Meyer. And so things started, they started earlier in the week, but in terms of the tackles, you were at Georgia's pro day, but then since we last spoke, Ohio State held their pro day. No surprise to Mike Tomlin. Omar Khan was there, but also offensive line coach Pat Meyer. And the night before the Ohio State pro day, saw a video of Mike Tomlin, Omar Khan, Dan Rooney Jr. taking all the top Buckeyes offensive linemen out to dinner, highlighted by offensive tackles Paris Johnson and Dawand Jones. Now, Johnson has no chance to be there at 17. I'm going to pull that card right off the top. Dawand Jones is the name I'm watching right now, just given all the connections there. Although I think there's a conversation for us to have about our thoughts on Dawand Jones and maybe some concerns we're having.
Alex, let's play a game.
I think it's what the guy from Saw said, so I'm a little nervous about how this is going to go.
Let's play a game of, is Dave overreacting? It's a two-part game. Is Dave overreacting? And it's talk Dave off. Can you talk Dave off the ledge?
Tiff has the home version of this game, I assume.
Oh, yeah, exactly. She's actually mastered it. She's very good at it.
Okay.
We're going to see how good you are in this game.
All right. This really has saw, like, you're on a tricycle right now. This has big time saw vibes you're giving me, Dave.
Look, I've done a lot of thinking about this, and that's probably dangerous as we get. I'm with you on the further you get into this, class and about this tackle class and start going down the list and all like that. I'm with you with the Paris Johnson. If he's there at 17, somebody better pull a hammy, getting that card up there, because I just he seems like he's really the cream. Him, and potentially Skoronski seem like really the cream of the crop, along with then maybe Broderick Jones, who I want to have another conversation about here maybe in a minute here. But Dawand Jones out of Ohio State. I've gone all over the place with him, with my initial thoughts, to diving into the tape and seeing, what a beast he is, especially against the run. And then I go back to the size issue with him, and the right tackle really capable only to this point right now. And then you go from the Senior Bowl, where it looked like he started off and had a good first day or whatnot, then just basically vanished, pulled out for the rest of it. And then you get to the combine, kind of, okay, what's going to happen at the combine here? He did his 40. That was all he did outside of drills. But even the drills, it looked like he was, I got to get the hell out of here. Kind of aspect of those drills. And you say, okay, no big deal here. We'll see him at his pro day. You get to his pro day, and I think one red flag here initially was him not weighing in. And then supposedly, to hear him talk, Mike Tomlin chirped him up about that. Now, is that Mike Tomlin playing? Is that Mike Tomlin playing but being serious? What level of chirping is that, and how much can you read into that? I don't know. But for a guy his size, that you already can visibly see is a big guy, a guy that's let's face it, has struggled a little bit with his weight. I think made it a goal last season or something to drop about 10, 12, 15 pounds, whatever it was like in that. But to get to your pro day now, after everything that has happened so far throughout this pre-draft process, and decide not to get on the scale, and then follow it up with not doing any drills. Mm-hmm. And look, we look at this as what we are, and that's outsiders. There's only so much information that we have on the outside. We can only take the tape that we have as face value. We can only take the information. Maybe his agent just said unequivocally, you've done enough, don't do anymore. But at some point, I think I think he even said, I there's no need for me to do this. But to me, looking at him as a prospect, and if I were, and once again, I don't know the level of information. Maybe he had a hammy, maybe something bothered him. I don't know. I would have looked at this as an opportunity since the combine to come out here and say, I want to make a statement, man. I want to show these guys that I've dropped, a few more pounds here. I want to show them that I can move better. I want to go through. I want to do all the stuff. I want to compete. I want to show them that I want to compete. I want to try to improve whatever my draft stock appears to be. I want to do that. I came away from his pro day now thinking, my Lord, I don't know if I would be on board with signing off on this guy being the 17th overall pick.
I hear you, and I'm with you, basically lockstep. And it's not about just one thing; it's the combination.
Right.
You go to the Senior Bowl, you have the first day, and then you stop, and you feel like that's good enough. And there was reported to be an injury, but I think the sense of the Senior Bowl was he just, was one of those guys that said, "I had one good day of practice. I showed what I felt like I need to show. I'm just gonna, put the brakes on." The combine, I guess he did go through most of the things, didn't go through some of the testing, but I don't need to see the guy do the vert. Like it's not that critical to me. He went through drills. So, okay, fair enough. But then at the pro day, entire NFL watching you, and you do nothing there. You don't even weigh in. And the question is, okay, why aren't you weighing in? If you were 365, you probably are weighing in to show scouts and teams that, okay, I got my weight down. He struggled with that. At the Senior Bowl, he was 375. He had told Ross McCorkle he wanted to be 360 for the combine. Came at the combine at 374. So he dropped 1 pound, not getting his weight down. And if he's not weighing in at his pro day, I'm guessing he didn't continue to drop weight. He probably added or sustained. And that's a concern. And especially whenever you stand next to a Paris Johnson, who we just talked about, almost certainly going to be the first tackle drafted in this year's class. He did everything. He went through drills. He weighed in. He had a full workout. And you compare that to Jones, who's a lesser prospect, will go after Paris Johnson. He doesn't compete. That's a concern. That's a red flag for me. So again, it's not just about one thing. It's the totality of the whole pre-draft process. You just wonder about the weight, the effort, the conditioning. And, Jones could be a really good player. It could go really well, or it could go, I think, really poorly in the NFL. I don't know which way his career is going to go. And that's a lot of risk to take on with one of your top picks.
And then you start wondering, how coddled maybe was this kid at Ohio State? And is this a fact of, because he is such a planet theory big dude like this, did he win because of the size, and how is this going to translate to the NFL level where you're going against the best of the best and you're asked to play 7, sometimes even 80 or 90 snaps in a game? How's the conditioning going to be? Because look, we kind of chatted in the direct messages on Twitter there. If Mike Tomlin held his annual Latrobe conditioning run right now, he doesn't finish it. I don't
probably not. Yeah. I mean, probably not. And so, yeah, that's a big concern. I mean, he was asked about why he didn't weigh in, and he just said no reason, just didn't want to, didn't need to. And, again, if his weight was down, if he was losing weight in good shape for the pro day, he would have weighed in. And so the fact that he's not, to me, is actually pretty big red flag.
So, okay, let's play the game. How bad is Uncle Dave overreacting? And can you talk Dave off the ledge any here? How would you go about addressing both of those?
Yeah, I don't think it's an overreaction. I think I have the same red flags you do. I mean, does that doom him for NFL success? Not necessarily. You think about Orlando Brown Jr., his terrible combine workouts, and now he went through some of that stuff and did all the testing. The numbers were just historically bad, and sometimes these guys are just football players, and they get the job done out there on Saturdays and Sundays. So I don't want to say that he can't succeed in the NFL. I just think, there's a boom-bust component to it. Are you always going to be worried about this guy's weight and putting in the time, the effort, doing the detailed type work to really be the best player that he can be? Or as you kind of mentioned, is he going to be somebody that always gets by on his size and length and just that kind of freakish body type that he has that's so unique that can allow you to dominate in college football? So I just don't know what kind of guy I'm getting, and that's my concern.
Mine as well, too. Look, he might become the best thing, the best big tackle in the NFL,
sure.
In a while here. I just, once again, looking at this process and then, just gauging everything. I came out of the pro day the other day with wondering, oh man, and, just really, really wondering if I want to tie my first round draft pick to this. I mean, obviously you get, and even then, let's say you took him at 32, it feels Mike Adams-ish a bit, Yeah,
he was another big Ohio State tackle that, just didn't really put it all together. And listen, from what I've read, I mean, Jones seems to be a good guy, like a good person. I'm not trying to impugn his character, but just these things I don't like to see. The Senior Bowl just, barely working, the combine doing some limited stuff and maybe not having a great, workout. And then at the pro day, I mean, everybody's showing up to watch you work. I mean, that's the whole point of the pro day. And you sit it out while your teammates all work around you. And it just kind of gives me a bad feeling.
I agree. If you were to guess right now, will Dawand Jones be the Steelers' 17th overall selection in the 2023 NFL draft?
Well, he was just in my last mock draft. That was right prior to the pro day. He checks those boxes. He has the size that Pittsburgh seems to be gravitating towards. I just don't know how they're going to interpret this workout. I think they're probably not thrilled to send their O-line coach and Tomlin and make that trip, not just for Jones. Obviously, Ohio State has a ton of prospects, but to go there to watch Jones do nothing probably didn't sit too well with them. So it's a good question. I don't know for sure. I'm kind of torn on what I think they think about Dawand Jones.
What do you think? How much can you read into Mike Tomlin, quote unquote, chirping him up for not getting on the scale?
Well, I think it was probably a joke, but all good jokes have a kernel of truth to them. And I'm sure Tomlin would have liked to see Jones weigh in. I think it's a number they probably wanted to see where he was at, considering weight's always kind of going to be a thing with Dawand Jones. So probably an issue again, because what are you hiding? If you're not weighing in, you're hiding something. If he was 360 pounds like he wanted to be, he'd be weighing in. He'd be sprinting to that line to say, I want to weigh in. I want to show you guys my weight's down. I've committed. I've lost the weight that I said I would lose, and we're all good here. So what's his weight? And even if he was the same, he'd probably still probably weigh in just to say that I'm the same. I'm not ballooning up. So, is he 380 right now? 385? It's the fact that he's not weighing in says I have something to hide that I don't want scouts and teams to know.
And then there's the factor of a guy that size. What's been the history of tackles in the NFL that big?
I mean, there aren't a lot of guys in general. Trent Brown is the one that comes to mind.
And he is a monster, and he's still playing at how old? What is he?
He's listed, I think, 380, but who knows what his weight is. He's a huge guy.
But I mean, how old is he?
He's around 30, I would say, maybe older than that at this point. I mean, he's played in the league for a while. He's had some
34.
Oh, wow. 34. Okay. Yeah. I mean, so that's kind of the guy.
But he's like, at least on, I mean, I don't know what his true weight is, 320-ish or whatnot.
No, he's bigger than that. I mean, what did he come out as? I mean, Brown is going to be the comp. When he came out, he was 355. I bet you his weight's up. He's probably like 370 if I had to guess. But so that's going to be like the comp.
He can move though too. Still, even at his age, I mean, that guy just railroads people.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, again, just trying to find the body type of that really big tackle. I mean, again, in Pittsburgh's history, you've had recent names in Mike Adams, Zach Banner, Max Starks. Those kind of guys have come and gone through Pittsburgh before. And
what kind of stress does that put on the knees and, just all the little byproduct. And once again, look, I'm not taking away. I'm not saying that this guy won't be, a premier starting tackle in the NFL. I'm just looking at it as far as, boxes I would check and flags that I would put on this kid at this point.
Yeah, and again, this just comes down to comparing prospects. Do you like this guy or this guy? And these things can be the tiebreaker. Darnell Wright, his weight's been better. He tested better. I think he's I don't know if they've not had their pro day yet, but we'll see if he goes through his whole pro day workout. He had a really good workout at the combine. So if you're trying to say, do we want A or B? And if B doesn't have the weight concerns and went through everything, you feel more comfortable with that pick, you may go with a guy like Darnell Wright over a guy like Dawand Jones, who also still has that, freakish size.
Okay. All right. That's the conversation I wanted to have about him. About Broderick Jones. Refresh my memory. Pat Meyer was not at that pro day, right?
Let me double check Georgia. I don't believe so. At least we did not spot him. The names that we have for Georgia's Tomlin, Kahn, Terrell Austin, and Danny Smith. To my knowledge, no Pat Meyer.
Okay. I believe that's still up on ESPN. So by the weekend, we probably need to scour that once again to see if we can find Pat Meyer there. How big a deal would it be if indeed Pat Meyer was not at that pro day?
Not really a big deal. For me, the rule of thumb, and again, I understand we're kind of in a bit of a gray area with Kahn and Weidl in their first full draft, but my criteria is first round picks only. Tomlin and or GM has to be there. The positional coach does not have to be there necessarily. Second round, third round, that's where I look towards where the positional coaches are going. So, for example, at Pitt's Pro Day last year, Mike Sullivan was not there, believe it or not. He was at Nevada to watch Carson Strong. It was Tomlin and Tomlin and Colbert, I should say, that were at that Pitt Pro Day. So those types of things, I don't. The positional coach not being there is not a deal breaker to me.
Okay, but we don't know that. At least we don't have it documented that Pat Meyer was elsewhere on that Georgia Pro Day.
That's a good question. Correct. I don't have Pat Meyer listed anywhere on that March 15th Georgia workout. He was in Northwestern the day before, whatever that's worth, to watch Skoronski.
Okay, and maybe his flight got hung up or something. Maybe he was supposed to be there,
Yeah, now he was at, again, Ohio State, and where else was he at? We just saw him at Alabama yesterday to watch some of their top offensive linemen.
And I think I mentioned this on the show the other day or live stream that we did. The only thing about Broderick is the fact that, the starts, the total amount of games played / starts, but you can get past that,
I think so. Yeah, I think so. The question is, will he get past the first 16 picks? Will he get the 17?
And if you have concerns about Skoronski, if teams have, in other words, it's conceivable that teams would have Broderick Jones ahead of Skoronski.
Sure. I think Broderick Jones gets taken before Skoronski. I think most teams view Skoronski as a guard. I think Pittsburgh probably will do the same. I think for Pittsburgh, I mean, if Skoronski's going to be their tackle, how can your tackle be smaller than the guards that you have? I think that's just a weird way to build your roster, and they want these big people. So I don't know. I know that Meyer was at that Northwestern Pro Day, so there's obviously some interest there, but I don't think Skoronski's seriously in play.
Okay, I would agree with you. And regardless, I think there's a chance all three of those guys might be off the board at 17.
Sure, there is a chance. Absolutely. So from the Pro Day circuit, where do you want to kind of pivot to, other than just I'm really having fun of us just being total psychotic degenerates looking up Pro Days? And literally, we'll talk about Wisconsin here in a second. Dave and I, without communicating with each other, we're watching the same random local Wisconsin news station clip to find a certain Steeler we'll talk about in a moment, and basically had it at the same time without telling each other what we're doing. So we're just insane, and I'm very glad that I know you to make me feel a bit better about my psychotic Steeler scouting behavior.
Yeah, but you're a hell to compete against because you memorize clothing and shoes. And,
it's important. It helps.
I have to pedal 3 times faster than you do to keep up in the race there. But I am very proud of my work so far this offseason. Let's go back to Alabama. Okay. Alex, talking about these tackles and who, were you surprised Pat Meyer was at that pro day?
I'm not going to say surprised, but I don't know if I was expecting it the way that I was expecting Tomlin and Kahn to be there. Alabama doesn't have a, top first round pick offensive lineman. And sometimes these positional coaches go to kind of where Tomlin and Kahn aren't, but I'll just say they had Bama's the biggest pro day on the entire calendar, but Pittsburgh had a very heavy presence there yesterday. All
right. And here's the second part of that. You probably know where I'm going. Why isn't there more talk about Tyler Steen?
Yeah, it's a fair question. He's kind of got, put back in that shuffle of those big name tackles. He was a 1-year guy at Alabama. He was a Vanderbilt transfer, so he's not like he's been a 4-year starter at the school that's become that household name the guys have watched every Saturday on CBS for the big Alabama SEC games. He's a guy that might get kicked inside the guard, but I thought I talked about him at the Senior Bowl. I thought he had a really good week there with his anchor and pass protection. Just a really strong, stout guy. Jonathan has kind of said similar. So. It's a little bit of a question of where do you want to play this guy? If he's a guard, is he going to be as attractive to the Steelers for what they need? But I'm just, watching him in Mobile, I thought he had a really good week.
I think one of the concerns with him might be the arm size, right?
Right, that's where we're getting some guard work for him. I think he's sub 33-inch arms. Do we have an arm length officially?
32 and 3/4 is what I'm showing here.
Yeah, so that's where you're getting some of the talk about moving him inside to guard.
Slightly half-inch longer than Skoronski. Where does he measure up against, let's say, the Georgia kid? 30. Yeah. See, his arms are going to be the issue. Probably not going to be could he? I guess where I'm going with this, I still view. I wasn't at the Senior Bowl, but I've watched the all 22 practice tape and all. I thought he represented himself well at tackle.
Yeah,
against that competition.
Right. I mean, I thought he had a good week. In terms of where he goes, I think somebody said he's kind of a sleeper day 2 top 50 guy. That might be a little strong, but he's going to be, probably a top 75, no worse than a top 100 pick.
You think 32 is out of the question for him?
Yeah, that seems high. And again, for Pittsburgh, if they view him as a guard, you can't take a guard at 32. I think at this point, when you sign Herbig, you sign Sayamalo, I think you got to look at that true tackle. And I like Steen. I don't, but I mean, they sent Myers, so obviously they have some interest there.
That's why I'm going. That's why I took us back to Alabama.
Can I give you just one crazy curveball here? You know who else is working out there? DJ Fluker.
Yes,
DJ
I saw
Fluker
that.
was there. Yeah, and he looked good, and he wants to make a comeback. And do they send a Pat Meyer that says, "Hey, let's check out this veteran tackle because we might need a veteran tackle right now." So it's maybe the prospects, and let's go check out DJ Fluker.
And they're not afraid of reclamation pedigree guys.
Yeah,
especially if they get them
size.
cheap.
Yeah,
and we talked about them needing bodies in that. Look, if you went out and signed that guy on the cheap right now to add to that room, it still obviously wouldn't prevent you from addressing the position in a draft.
Oh yeah, 100%. And Fluker coming out, this was a decade ago, but he was just under 6'5". His weight was 339. Obviously, his body type has kind of changed over the years, but according to Draft Scout, his arm length 36 inches, and so you want the big long guys. DJ Fluker offers that.
And once again, we don't know. I mean, Meyer was there, and him and Chris Morgan.
They've been together all year.
Him and Chris Morgan were side by side. This thought rolled through my head when you have like 2 or 3 offensive line coaches out there kind of muddling around those drills at a pro day. I wonder how irked they get with each other. I don't want them to run that drill. I want to run another drill.
I bet you they do.
Or if one's trying to coach them up this way, the other one doesn't like. You know what I'm saying? I wonder how much under the breath, kind of kibitzing there might be.
And Meyer, I think, had the short straw because he wasn't really leading those guys through the drills. He was kind of watching yesterday.
But he was right on top of them.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, I know Steen and there's the other, how do you say it? Ekier Jr. Is there, but DJ Fluker might be the guy they really wanted to go check out.
I would have greater comfort. And look, we only saw what ESPN and SEC Network showed us, but to read everything and to see what we saw, it looked like he did have a good day. Yeah, I wonder how many teams. In other words, I would think if you're going to sign that guy, it's going to happen in the next couple of days. Someone, right?
Yeah, potentially. I don't know. If Fluker wants to take his time and kind of see,
how things
where he wants
out.
to go. Yeah, and does he want to stay closer to home? He's from the South. Does he want to go to Pittsburgh? I have no idea. Guy wants to go to anyone who wants to sign him, but he may take some time, and teams may take some time. I don't know, but just something else to consider there. Usually we're talking prospects, but occasionally, you had Cam Newton at Auburn's pro day. You get Fluker there at Alabama. Just something else to think about.
Okay. Because late last night, I went back through some Tyler Steen tape and all, and because Pat Meyer was there, and Jim Nagy, obviously Senior Bowl director, is going to talk his guys up and all, and he's saying that Steen's a guy that's overlooked, in this tackle class.
Do you see Steen staying at tackle, or do you view him?
I do initially. I do initially. I do.
Okay. Is that just because the length isn't going to dissuade you?
Not yet. No. But
Okay.
I mean, obviously there was a little bit of concern that enough that they wanted to see him at guard at the Senior Bowl, right? How much didn't he play in a game at guard too?
I don't remember, to be honest. He probably did. He was working guard pretty extensively throughout the week. I mean,
guess
his
that's
length,
my next question is how much did he work at guard at the Senior Bowl?
I'd have to look. His length is borderline. I mean, he's a quarter inch away from that 33 kind of benchmark you look for. It's not to say that he can't. And again, length can be a little overstated. You want to have good technique. You can have all the length in the world. If you have bad hand use and a bad punch, doesn't matter what your arm length is. So I don't want to be beholden to it, but that's why you're seeing him get projected at guard.
Okay.
Let's see. Alabama Pro Day. So yeah, it was Kahn, Tomlin, Dan Rooney Jr., Pat Meyer, Mark Sadowski, and Grady Brown. And so with Grady
and
Brown.
Kreidler.
Oh, Kreidler was there. I don't have him listed. Okay. Thank you for that. You're right about that. So that's, again, it's Alabama. It's the biggest pro day on the whole calendar, but it's a lot of people to send to one place.
Okay.
What else do we have here in terms of pro days yesterday? Let's talk about Wisconsin. Mentioned that earlier, and kudos to you for finding one Aaron Curry at the Wisconsin Pro Day.
Yeah, that was quite, you get those moments where you get those Easter eggs there, probably like you felt the other day when you found Cheaty, and then I was able to locate Cheaty just up the road, I think the same day, right? Which one was that? That
was Stanford.
Stanford as well, too. I had the better screenshot, too. I had a very clean screenshot.
Yeah, you had it. You were playing on easy mode over there, right?
Yeah.
Right in frame like that.
But let's go back to Wisconsin now. And initially you had found who there?
Sheldon White.
Okay. And then we found Aaron Curry there, and there's really only the two biggest names there at that Wisconsin Pro Day. Both are on the defensive side of the ball in Keanu Benton and Nick Herbig. And Herbig obviously played edge, had fantastic production there last season. But here's my theory. Where's my tinfoil hat at here? And it's really not so much a theory because Herbig did talk after the pro day as well too, according to Badger Extra. This is evidently look. He's undersized. He's an undersized edge coming out. And in fact, let's give the people the exact numbers here. With Herbig, he worked with the linebacker groups, although sometimes they kind of have some edges, probably working with a linebacker group that don't need, and vice versa there. But at the combine, Nick Herbig was 6'0", 240 pounds, with 31 and a quarter inch arms and 9 and a quarter inch hands. His workout, he only did the 40. I think that's all he did at the combine. He did the rest of the drills, or at least from what I can find at his pro day here. He is. A lot of people have. Oh, also, I didn't know this. You remember Bobby April, special team? He's still in the NFL special teams coordinator. His son coaches, I think, the outside linebackers there at Wisconsin.
No, I did not know that.
Another Bobby April there, and that is Bobby April Sr.'s son there. And obviously the head coach there is Jim Leonard. But evidently Nick Herbig has been getting a lot of people. In fact, his own coach is telling him he's going to have to move to off the ball at the NFL level here. And Herbig spoke about that after his pro day and is really embracing it as well too. He says, see if I can find a quote here. I'm honestly excited about it. I've played outside linebacker almost my whole career, so just learning something new, diving into something new, getting a fresh start, it's exciting to me. I get to try something out and attack it with everything I've got. So it seems like he says, I've kind of made my peace with that a long time ago, talking about the position switch. I'm ready for whatever comes next, and I know I'm going to go at it with 100% of my effort there. So it seems almost destined that at least most of the teams are going to see him as a transitional guy at the NFL level, which could obviously take some time within that. And unless a team, in my opinion, unless a team just thinks that this guy can be an edge at the NFL level, he's going to be a later day 3 guy, I think.
Yeah, I think all that.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. He's going to have to convert off ball. He doesn't have the length and probably the overall frame to play on the edge, especially in Pittsburgh, but also for a 4-3 defense. Certainly will not be doing that, but there's versatility there. You could do some creative third down rush stuff with him. So obviously you can lean on some of the experience he has, playing on the line, playing as an edge player. And of course the connection here is he's the younger brother of Nate Herbig, just signed by the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so even in that press conference that Nate had, he went to bat and said, I've been saying, go draft my brother, go bring this guy in. And so I know you were watching some tape. I've kind of casually watched some tape. I was watching Nebraska last night against Wisconsin. So I was watching Herbig just sort of casually. Pretty intense guy, pretty physical guy, kind of has that Steelers vibe to it there. So, and then Curry being there, obviously, to watch Herbig, the connections become pretty obvious.
I agree. And that's kind of where I'm going with this. I kind of wonder if this guy could be, and we'll see if they make any moves during the draft and pick up any other picks. But I've got myself thinking now this could be a 6th or 7th round guy for the Steelers.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where to slot him. Again, you're kind of in that awkward spot where is 4th too high, and will he make it to the 7th just based on the picks that Pittsburgh currently has? But there's interest there. There's the connections there, and Pittsburgh loves the brother tandems, and they love the Wisconsin linebackers. So it seems like, what isn't there to like with Nick Herbig? And
I think if you run his numbers in the Math Bomb RAS generator as a linebacker, they come out pretty damn good.
What did he do? What were his times in testing at his pro day? Do you know the numbers of what he did at Wisconsin?
They don't have, they say Herbig participated in the pro agility drill, time not recorded by UW, obviously. So we're going to have to wait for that to leak out. But the broad jump was 9 feet, 6 inches. The vertical was 34.
All right. So average numbers, nothing special, but nothing important. Okay,
I think it came out to something like an 8-point-something RAS.
Really?
With what we have.
He ran pretty well. He had a really good 10 split of like 160, it looks like. So that's a really good first step number for him.
Right. And did 25 reps on the bench, all the things that you plug into that thing. It will be interesting to see what his agility, what those, what was the 3-cone, what was the short shuttle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are always big for, again, he's going to be more an off-ball guy, but when he does rush the passer, those agility numbers really are pretty telling when it comes to NFL success. And can you bend and turn the corner?
All right. While we are talking, we both agree and it's not hard to connect the dots here on several levels right now, right? And especially if this guy slides to the back end of day 3. This guy could be a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Yeah, just in the way that Connor Hayward was like pretty easy to see coming to Pittsburgh last year, you can kind of say similar about Nick Herbig.
And I haven't gone back yet to look his early days, but I would imagine he would be an asset on special teams.
Yeah, if he's anything like his brother, which is kind of that can-do attitude, I think he'd embrace that, no problem.
All right, now let's stay on the linebacker position here for a moment. This team so far has signed Holcomb to a 3-year deal, and you would envision him being your 3-down guy for at least the next. You would think and hope the next 2 seasons, right?
That's the goal. Yes.
Of the 3, and hopefully even longer than that. Does a good job and finally gets you over the hump of we finally found us a 3-down guy via free agency. Correct?
Hopefully, it better be. Otherwise, man, you keep striking out like this. It's been frustrating. So Holcomb, at the least for 23, he's going to be the 3-down guy.
All right. With that move alone, and because Landon Roberts, for what he is, it still doesn't prevent you from doing something at that position based on contract and what he does. It's kind of an added bonus with him in the room, correct?
Yeah, it's almost a Miles Jack replacement of get another veteran guy in there to round out that room. Again, I see Robertson, Mark Robinson as very similar body types, very similar skill sets. So they're kind of wearing the same hat to me.
All right. I guess where I'm going with this is how, what does this do, to the potential of this team drafting an inside linebacker with at least the first 2 picks, really even maybe the first 3 picks?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I've kind of wrestled with this one. I've had to go ahead.
Because if you go out and get, Jack, what's his name?
Jack Campbell from Iowa.
Yeah, Jack Campbell from Iowa, who is perceived as going to easily transition into a 3-down linebacker at the NFL level. What do you do with him if you're Pittsburgh and that's your one of your first, let's say, 2 picks?
He's probably playing right away. And I had that conversation of, okay, if you draft an inside linebacker high, it feels like that guy's not sitting. So is Roberts going to sit? Is Robinson kind of taking a backseat role? And so, yeah, my thought is maybe they don't take one super early. They focus on D-line, they focus on corner, offensive tackle, and they go with a Dorian Williams in the 3rd or 4th round, or Nick Herbig in maybe the 4th round, potentially trade back scenario, something like that. That's kind of where I'm leaning right now, but obviously I think this thing could go either way.
Okay, so in other words, you think Jack Campbell still could be in play?
Yeah, I can't rule that out. I think it'd be with him, especially being at that Iowa Pro Day. I can't rule that out. I think it'd be pretty foolish to say that there's no chance or very little chance that he's going to be a possibility.
Okay,
is that where you're at?
I'm a little less. I mean, I haven't ruled him out, but it causes me to think 3 times about putting him in a mock draft.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, we've seen Curry so far with maybe some of the more later-ish round guys with Williams from Tulane and now Herbig, and we'll see where else he goes. So maybe that's a clue that they're going to sit on inside linebacker. Again, that's kind of where I'm leaning. If the board breaks a certain way or whatever the case is, I just don't want to rule that stuff out.
Okay. We did not find Carl Dunbar at Wisconsin. What does that mean?
Yeah, to my knowledge, he wasn't there. I was watching Benton go through the D-line drills, and I didn't see him there. I don't know if it means a lot negatively, though, considering, again, remember that at the Combine, Carl Dunbar put these guys through a lot of the drills. And so I think you don't have to necessarily do that again. You may have already gotten all that you need to get out of Keanu Benton. So obviously, had Dunbar been there, it ratchets it up the intensity on the Benton train some more, but him not being there, I'm not going to say that's a deciding definitive factor for why they would not take Keanu Benton.
Okay. I think those were some of the hot topics that I wanted to get to. What else has come out on the Pro Day circuit?
Let's see. I should note, and a Twitter user alerted me to this, kind of an interesting connection there. Chidi Iwoma, as we just mentioned, was at that San Jose State Pro Day the other day, and their top guy, and the pronunciation I'm going to butcher here a little bit, is a D-line edge guy, Valami Pahoko, we'll say. A really productive guy. Interesting note there, and again, there was a Twitter user that tipped me off to this, so thank him for the information. San Jose State's defensive line coach is Isaac Seumalo's father. And so I thought that was kind of cool there, just when it comes to a guy like Fahoko, who's kind of a sleeper that was really highly productive. And
wasn't that player, because Seumalo talked on Sirius last night, and he mentioned there was something along the lines that that player you just mentioned was all conference or something like that?
I believe so. With his production, I imagine he had to have been.
I haven't gone down that rabbit hole yet, but you can bet that it's going to be on my list there. But interesting connection for sure.
Yeah, 47 career tackles for loss, 23 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, 12 pass deflections. So he's got size listed. Is he a combine guy? I don't know if he was a combine guy. Let's see. Oh, he was. He was listed at 6'4", 276. So it seems like he added some weight. Maybe to get bigger, and so maybe a little awkward fit there for Pittsburgh on the edge, but he could drop. So just want to make that note. Thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, it was definitely, because we always try to connect the dots.
Yeah, and then everything else has been mostly area scouts. I'm just trying to scroll through the list here. Anything else of real significant note? No, really wouldn't see anything else that's super noteworthy.
Okay, and we'll try to circle back through some of this because sometimes footage will surface a little bit later, several days later, and you find people after the fact there. But I think we should go back to the Georgia pro day and watch it all. See, make for sure we're not missing anybody there.
Okay, and thank you for being the one to start us finding Mark Gorsick at Illinois. That's one of those you have to go back to, a week later, somebody posts a random video, and so we now know who was there. It makes sense because Gorsick's kind of the mid-Atlantic scout now, but Mark Gorsick was the mystery man at Illinois.
Okay, and then once again, we will learn a little bit more here over the course of this final week of the Pro Day circuit, especially today with Penn State, because we expect a lot of the Steelers people to be there today for several obvious reasons.
Yep, that Pro Day just about ready to get underway up in State College. All right, Dave, let's play your favorite game, the Steelers salary cap update and the Isaac Seumalo contract update.
Real quick, how much did you nerd out over the Steelers? What would they call that series that they released last night? The Standard, right? Yeah,
big time nerd. I was going through. Yeah, we get the ear from Mark Sadowski.
That was a great story. That was a great back. I'm glad they provided the full background. Let him speak quite a bit on that. I really learned a lot about him from that.
Yeah, there was a story in The Athletic a couple of years ago whenever Sadowski was in Chicago, because Omar was in New Orleans whenever Sadowski got hired by New Orleans, and it was Omar that helped get him in the door, kind of get him his first NFL job. And so those guys have a pretty long connection and friendship there. That's why whenever Omar Khan got promoted to GM, I said they're going to go hire Mark Sadowski, and lo and behold, they did. And so there's a big connection there with Coach Buddy Tevens, who we wish well. He was in a recent motorcycle accident. He's in the hospital, I think, right now, so wishing Buddy Tevens well. But yeah, that all goes back to those days in Tulane in the 90s.
Yep. But that was quite a sequence there.
And should just note really quickly, although we've kind of already suspected this, that episode of The Standard confirmed that Merrill Hodge and Ike Taylor have been hired as official scouts, and in some capacity seems to be focusing a bit more on positions, and Ike Taylor with the corners, Merrill Hodge with the running backs. So Hodge said he's watched and I think graded 150 some players. So just want to note that there was actually a lot of interest. I was surprised by the feedback from Steelers Nation about the excitement about hearing Hodge and Taylor officially named scouts.
Okay, good deal.
All right, Dave, contract time. Seumalo got the numbers in on that, and so hit us with those and the overall state of the Steelers salary cap.
Yeah, the Seumalo numbers hit the NFLPA this morning, and his 2023 cap charge came in slightly higher than I anticipated. It is $3.61666 versus the estimated $3.443333. It ended up not being a true $8 million across the board by year split with him. Instead, it looks like it came in at $8.25 million for 2023, $16.125 through 2024, and $24 million obviously through the life of the deal. So he got $250,000 more in the first year and $125,000 more through the second year than what I originally speculated the contract to be. And that's why I had his 2023 cap number $173,333 off in my speculation. I would like to apologize for that. Can you find it in your heart to forgive me as we go into the weekend here?
Well, it's going to take a lot of healing, but I think I can get past there.
All right. And the James Pierre number, I told you it would probably come in between 1.01 million and 1.5 million. It came in right in the middle at 1.3 million. Maybe that will help in the forgiveness.
The first step. It's a good first step.
Yeah, the first step of healing here is gaining back that trust. I now have the Steelers at 10,651,000. No, I have the Steelers roughly 10,651,819 under the cap. Roughly,
yeah, approximate number.
Yeah, approximately. Based on everything that we know right now, they entered the new league year, according to my estimation, 10.409318 under the cap. They obviously have since cut Miles Jack, restructured the contract of Minkah Fitzpatrick, and added 8 contracts to that since the start of free agency. So they're almost really right back to where they started from post cutting of William Jackson III, with the days right, in other words, right before the start of free agency there. So really nothing earth shattering there. If you want to look at, kind of looking at expenses forthcoming and factoring in a TJ Watt restructure at some point, I have them sitting right now at projected effective usable salary cap space based off of rookie pool into 51, practice squad, injured reserve, in season injury replacement fund, all that kind of stuff at 2.065 million in what I would call projected effective usable salary cap space. Now, you got some things to potentially play with there. We talked about, Kevin Dotson, what's going to happen to there. Could him not being on the roster essentially cover a increase of a 2023 cap number in Alex Highsmith after a deal? I think that's potentially in the cards here. What's going to happen with Akella Witherspoon, from here on out? We just don't know right now, but obviously that would give you $4 million minus displacement cost to kind of play with here. So long story short, when you're looking at the Steelers cap situation right now, they've got some room to play with here. They obviously can still re-sign a lot of their lower level unrestricted guys to veteran to contracts similar to what James Pierre got or lower there. They could still go out there and do something with a Bud Dupree if they wanted to. They could do something potentially with a Taylor Rapp if they wanted to, not knowing potentially what might fall later on in the offseason with some of these guys like Dotson and some of these guys like Witherspoon. Makes it kind of hard to guess. But, just working off of a $2 million projected of effective salary cap space at this time even gives them room to work with. So we'll just have to let the dominoes kind of play out here at this point here. But they've got room to work with here.
How much cap space did James Pierre's contract eat up? I know it's a very small number, but what's the number on that?
Yeah, what did I have on that? Like 700 something thousand. Okay. So not much at all. Let me pull that back up there. That post specifically.
Just to illustrate the point that it's not 1.3 cap hit because there's
you had the displacement.
Yeah. So just to illustrate that as a very kind of clean cut example. So you said 700,000.
Nearly 700,000 now, thanks to the several sites. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So basically half of that, actually counts against them in terms of that salary cap figure right now.
No. Wait. No, I was going off the wrong number there. Effectively used 430,000. That's right, because it was 800 something. So 430,000 was the displacement. That's what you used to effectively re-sign James Pierre.
Okay, so even better. Again, a third basically is counting against you in terms of the movement on the cap number overall. Quick interruption here. Apologize for that, but according to ESPN's Brooke Pryor, speaking of the Penn State Pro Day, Pryor saying that Steelers assistant GM Andy Weidel is there. Also joining him is Terrell Austin, Grady Brown and Alfredo Roberts, the tight ends coach. And so it does not appear to be Tomlin or Khan, at least not right now. What does that mean for Joey Porter Jr.? Very interesting question. But Grady Brown for those DBs, including Porter, Brenton Strange, the tight end. So Roberts being there for that. And hey, Andy Weidl is allowed to leave Pittsburgh for once. So that's good for him.
Not too far of a drive for him, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I mean, is Andy Weidl not allowed to be on these pro day dinners? Is he got to be at home base and take care of things in Pittsburgh, I guess?
I don't know what's up with that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, might be just overkill,
I guess, but I don't know. You kind of want to get your guy who's been scouting forever on the trail a little bit. Seems like maybe something worthwhile, but I guess maybe they're splitting up duties and he's handling some of the minutia and free agency type stuff. I don't quite know, but Andy Weidl apparently at Penn State.
Where else would Tomlin be? Notre Dame today? If he's not at Penn State, and obviously by the time this get out there, they might spot Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan at Penn State. But the notable pro days today, at least from my research, are Penn State, Notre Dame, Kentucky, Missouri, Boston College, BYU, and don't discount Old Dominion. Although, with it sounding like Alfredo Roberts is at Penn State today, how close is Old Dominion? I guess the question is
nah, they're too far apart.
Okay, all right.
I think I'm not sure where Old Dominion is exactly at, but I don't think it's near Penn State. I don't think. Now you're making me search here. It's in Norfolk, Virginia. Yeah, that's going to be too far from Penn State.
Okay.
Couple-hour drive. I don't know where Tomlin could be at. How about Boston College with Zay Flowers and, of course, Dino Tomlin being at Boston College? Could Tomlin go take a trip up to see his son?
I suppose that's possible. And the reason I bring up Old Dominion is because
Jack Kuntz.
The tight end there, the brother of the long snapper there, who's a massive human being that's going to be on the radars of several teams.
I'm not 100% sure, but I don't believe they're actually related, Christian Kuntz and Zach Kuntz. Although it's very weird because their moms have the same name.
Oh, I thought I read somewhere where they were related.
Yeah, I think I've seen that a couple places, but
okay.
I'm pretty sure they're not. It's weird though because Zach Kuntz has a brother named Christian, and their mom's names are like Kathy. But I don't believe they are related because I think they grew up in different places, and I don't see anything in Christian's bio that says that. But I'm not 100% sure.
I might be wrong. Sometimes you can't trust everything you read on Twitter. So
right. But there's also the guard there too, Nick Saliverdi, something to that effect. Who's I talked to him at the Senior Bowl. So there's Kuntz and also that guard to check. And obviously Tomlin won't be at Old Dominion, but we'll see who is there.
Okay, and we'll wait to see if Tomlin and Omar Khan show up at Penn State.
All right. Good deal. Anything else on the contract? I didn't mean to cut you off there in terms of the cap situation that Pittsburgh is
No. I think we got the only thing that I think now that we're waiting to actually hit the public salary cap report on the NFLPA side is DeMonte Casey, because I don't even think the team has even officially announced that yet.
Yeah, that's weird. They haven't. It's been days since that was reported.
Maybe he needs to get there and take a physical,
I guess, but hopefully everything's okay there. One other quick note, J.C. Hassenauer visited with the Giants, has not signed to our knowledge at least, but he's taken a trip, and so he's testing the waters since Pittsburgh decided not to tender him.
Okay. All right. I think we've got through all the minutiae here.
I think so. So let's get to some reader emails and close out today's show.
All right, we'll start with, let's see, Jonathan Mason, Alex and Dave. Alex, I like to nerd out behind the scenes stuff when it comes to front office coaching, inner workings, just like you. He says, after watching the last Standard episode, it seems like Mark Sadowski was a great new addition to the staff, along with the more notable ones like Weidl. He says, my question is, how will you gauge any sort of difference in scouting, drafting philosophy? Is it post-draft? Since at this point, it would be almost a year since these additions were made. I'm sure the overall organizational philosophy reigns supreme, but just interested in your thoughts. Y'all are the best to follow and listen to this time of year. Great work as always, Jonathan.
So what was the question again in terms of philosophy?
I guess he says after, the ads and the Sadowski and he says, my question is, how will you gauge any sort of difference in scouting / drafting philosophy?
Yeah,
is it post draft, since at that point, and basically, yeah, I mean, we're marking this down and tracking the pro days and all like that stuff as we go here. And, you obviously have to wait until the picks are made. So, we won't have a firmer grasp on this, especially with what they look for, which you got to be pretty damn close to getting that together, aren't you?
Post pro days. I'm going to wait for all the pro days to finish up.
Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
Hey, next month they're coming, but I got to wait for all the pro days to come in, because some numbers might come in that might change things.
All right. But I mean, how would you answer his question there?
Yeah, it's going to be some of the post draft type things. We won't know until we know in terms of the guys they actually take. So, we'll judge things based off of the rules we've had before in terms of the Tomlin Con / GM pro day visits and positional coaches and Power 5 and all that kind of stuff. So it's really hard to answer that right now. We're just going to have to kind of evaluate things after the draft picks are officially in. By the way, Josh Carney made a really good point in the DMs that the competition committee is meeting today. They're doing all their voting. And so I bet you Tomlin is actually probably there because he's on the competition committee. And so that's probably why he's not at Penn State. Omar Khan, I'm not quite sure where he may be, but I'm betting Josh is probably right.
Okay. That's a good point. Let's see. Lenny Barsikowski writes in, Dave and Alex, guys, just wanted to reach out a couple of things. First, Alex, I really thought you hit the nail on your head with your last mock. I really see things possibly falling that way. It would be hard to turn down that big tackle if he's on board at 17. Also, Dave, are you going to be able to sleep on Thursday night knowing that we had the first pick in the second round? What an exciting evening it's going to be for all Steeler fans. I hope I'm not alone in this last feeling, but can Ben just stop with the podcast? He says, I'm so tired of hearing from him. I wish he would just go golfing somewhere. He says, love the shows, never miss a podcast, Lenny. Look, I get how some people have that reaction about Ben, but I will say this once again. I think so far, minus all the food tasting and beer tasting, Ben's going to be Ben. There's still going to be, I got a splinter and it almost kept me from play. That's who Ben is. You listen to it, you write about it, you chuckle at it, you talk about it a little bit, then you move on. I think he's done a great job with that podcast. Overall. So once again, I just wish it was shorter from the fact, probably the way people think that we wish our show was shorter at times, but I think he does a good job on that. As far as the sleeping after the first night of the draft and all, I mean, look, we're up late anyway, because we're going through the pick that was made, and we're cobbling together potential candidates for the next pick and all like that. So nothing Lenny's really going to change on that front. And Alex appreciates the comment, I'm sure, about his last mock.
Yeah, thank you for that. I do appreciate that. I was just going to ask you, I guess we should maybe mention the Ben comments about the 49ers reaching out. Do you have any reaction to that revelation?
Not, if it happened the way that he says that it happened, I'm not overly surprised. I mean, I just think just going through a Rolodex, why wouldn't you just, you interested in playing? I just think it's due process.
I have a question in the Friday 5 today that'll drop later Friday on Steelers Depot. The question is, would it have personally bothered you if Ben had gone to San Francisco and played for the 49ers? So I'll ask the question to you. Would you have been in any way bothered by seeing Ben go to San Francisco?
Absolutely.
Okay. And he said just for the whole,
selfishness. Yeah.
The Franco Harris in a Seattle Seahawks uniform kind of thing.
Yeah. The 12-year-old fanboy in me, or however old I was in, what was it, 80 when Franco, what year was it for Franco in a Seahawks? But I'll let my fanboy side out. I would have, that would have upset me.
It would have been weird. I don't know.
I would have got over it. Okay. I wouldn't have stopped eating or anything like that.
That's good.
But yeah, it would have been troubling to whatever degree. Sure. How about you?
It would have been very weird. I think it would have just been strange to see that, and obviously, how good would he have looked off the couch after kind of, very much towards the end of his career in 21. So I don't know how much it would have bothered me, but I just think it would have been like Twilight Zone, Bizarro world to envision that.
Okay. Let's see. Where else shall we go here? Ian Carmen writes in, "Hey guys, I have a feeling about something." He says, "It seems like we have more players out the door than in so far. Where is the roster now compared to this point in free agency under Kevin Colbert? Typically," he says, "does it seem like they are gearing up to make a lot of picks via the draft, via trade downs?" I haven't sat here and compared to where they're at, week and a half in versus, previous years. But Ian, I mean, it's a good observation. The thought has crossed my mind that the roster maybe feels a couple players light overall, maybe. And that's just an instant reaction because I do track this, all the time. And currently there are 64 players under contract if you count Casey, and obviously they have, if you add 17 to that, by 17 meaning 7 draft picks, 10 undrafted free agents, that would put them at 81, and you have an off-season roster of 90 still, right? That's still a number, I think.
Right, it is. So yeah, it feels a little bit light.
Feels like there are normally more futures of some sort, maybe in the door, but maybe the USFL has something to do with this.
Yeah, they'll probably sign some guys from there. And again, some of their undrafted classes, I've seen them go up to 15, 16 before. So you add in an extra 5. Now you're at 80, 85 or so. You get a couple of re-signs back. Obviously they're going to get to 90. So, that's okay.
Okay. I haven't sat there and tracked it, Ian. But I mean, loosely, it's a good observation on your part, and the thought has kind of crossed my mind that it does feel maybe 4 or 5 players light. But I kind of chalk that up more to the futures guys or guys from these other leagues or whatnot there. Let's see.
Let me ask you just a really quick random arbitrary question. Whose first signing will be the better signing? Kevin Colbert's first ever free agent signing was Kimo von Oelhoffen. Now Omar Khan's was Patrick Peterson. Which will be the better signing of the two?
Yeah, I'm gonna give Omar the benefit of the doubt here. I'll go with Patrick Peterson.
Okay. I'll go Kimo von Oelhoffen. He was pretty good. Okay. Good role player in Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, remembered obviously for the Carson Palmer hit, but he had a couple good years in Pittsburgh.
All right, let's see. Chuck Griffith writes in, was the Steelers' interest in Orlando Brown Jr. an attempt to keep him from going to Cincinnati and being an upgrade over Jonah Williams? No, I would say no. I mean, and look, we don't know what level it'll be. It might be 10 years from now before we know indeed that was this just more of a phone call of doing the due diligence more than anything. At no portion of this, Chuck, did I think, oh, they just did this to keep him from going to Cincinnati. I really think that's overblown. The aspect of, well, they drafted this guy or they looked into this guy to keep him from going to another team. They're going to look at anybody they think they can help their own roster, regardless of who they think may or may not have interest in him from whatever team, even within division. That's my take on it.
No, I'm with you 100%. They're not doing that to try to play the Hollywood Squares block, Cincinnati from getting Orlando Brown.
Paul Lynn in the center square for the block.
There you go. Yeah, they're not playing those games. So they had interest in Brown because they had interest in Brown, and that's the reason.
Muthina writes in, I am concerned about the Steelers' approach in recent years, re-signing players they've drafted. For the 4-year draft period from 2015 to 2018, the Steelers will have only 2 players remaining on the roster from those classes, Watt and Chooks. I know you can't keep them all, but only keeping 2 of the best 8 guys you drafted during that time is particularly low, he says. If the season were to start today, our projected base defense will only have 3 guys who were drafted. The other 8 will be either free agents or players the Steelers traded for. He says the Steelers haven't had any significant contributions from defensive players drafted on day 3 since Vince Williams. They have to do better. The 2005/2008 defenses had a lot of day 3 draft picks, he says. I'll keep an open mind and see what the Steelers do moving forward, but it's not trending in the right direction, in my opinion, he says. Look, Mathena, you go back to kind of what we've said, dating back to the end of last season and obviously into the early offseason, their drafting as a whole, I think, hasn't been great. Now, within that, we don't have comparative numbers here to look at across teams across. I think in the past, when you've had some of these 6-round guys or something, look, another thing that can't discount, look what they got out of some of these undrafted free agents, the Alejandro Villanuevas and some of the, but your general take here, Mathena, of they have to do better, I guess, in the draft, and then specifically when it comes to re-upping some of these guys after their first contracts expire, I would agree with.
Yeah, I think that's a fair critique overall. I mean, some of those guys got re-upped, and eventually those guys are going to go. You did re-sign Cam Sutton initially, so at least you re-signed him off his rookie deal. You lost him the second time around, but at least you got the extra couple of years out of him. Yeah, I think they're fair points overall. I would just say, let's see how many defensive starters they have after this year's draft, and who becomes part of the 23 defense is probably going to be a starter or 2 there, given the high draft capital they have. So the numbers may shift some, but yeah, those are, I think, fair and valid critiques.
All right. And I was going to hit real quick, this team did just re-sign Larry Ogunjobi too, and kind of going back, it was a bullet point I want to hit on earlier, kind of going off of the inside linebacker movement and all like that. How much does the re-signing of Larry Ogunjobi impact the draft, especially early at defensive line position, if any?
I mean, there's an impact in the sense of there's at least some other starter opposite of Cam Hayward. So it gives you something known. There's something that you like, but they need depth. They need youth. They need rotational guys. They need a nose tackle. It's still a really big need defensive line overall. So if you didn't have him, then the house is on fire. You're screaming, we got to get like 3 of these guys. But it's still a need to me, even post Ogunjobi signing.
All right. And I need to watch more of Mazzy Smith this weekend, I think.
I just wonder how the off the field stuff is it going to change with the gun charge? It just, I don't know.
Right. I kind of wonder where he fits in all this. And who was at Michigan?
Who was it?
Just
Tomlin?
It feels like Dunbar should be at more of these.
Yeah, I mean, usually positional coaches aren't hitting the trail like super hard. I mean, they're at a couple places per year. Michigan, Tomlin, Kahn, Dan Colbert, and Alfredo Roberts, again, the tight ends coach.
And where's Dan Colbert been the last couple of days?
I do not know. Like, he was last at Clemson, Michigan, the only places we've seen him, but he's no longer an area scout, so his role may have shifted here a bit. Alfredo Roberts on the trail a decent amount. He's already at 2 places this year, at Michigan and Penn State. So this team really going to look to draft a tight end?
The longer that Zach Gentry remains unsigned, and even if Zach comes back on a cheap cuttable deal, I don't think you can discount it.
I think it's trending that way. Last time Alfredo went to Penn State, he had a big bear hug from Pat Frymuth, and they drafted him. So Brenton Strange, you might be a Steeler.
Okay.
All right. Anything else from the email machine?
I think we got it there. We are an hour 15 into this?
Yeah, give or take, hour 20. Good show.
All right. Appreciate everybody's support. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Was my performance above the line today as opposed to the last show?
I was very happy with your performance today. I thought you were, besides from the cap numbers being off slightly, which I'm still struggling with, aside from that, I'm very happy.
All right. I weighed in and all.
What did you weigh in at? Under 370?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, we're just checking.
All right. In the meantime, you follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter watch us play the game of Where's Waldo. It's it's probably only comical to us. And who's the other guy on Twitter that gets a kick? There's about 2 or 3 other guys.
There's a couple. Mike Adesso's, a couple others on there.
Yeah, there's a couple of them I think that are playing the home version as well too, and all like that. But it's not healthy. It's a bad.
No, it's a horrible, unhealthy, psychotic obsession. But you love us for it.
Anyway, follow Alex on the Twitter machine at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button, upper right navigational bar. Also, if you want an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button, upper right navigational bar, and follow the directions that way. Barring something weird happening, we'll be back on Monday. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.